Joined now by Dr. Husam Zomlot, who's the head of the Palestinian mission to the United Kingdom, the de facto Palestinian ambassador to the UK. Mr. Ambassador, thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning. Do you think the Rafah offensive is going to happen?
And de jure ambassador to the
I know,
UK.
well, I thought I would...
And de jure as well, because
yes,
I represent the people, and granted by my people and my
forgive me, yes, indeed,
the ambassadorship. But nonetheless, well, it's happening. It's not, do I think. Dozens have been slain only the last 48 hours, mostly women and children again. Netanyahu has crossed all red lines since the beginning of this onslaught, and he is now crossing the red line of the US, of the UK, of the ICC, of the ICJ, of the Security Council, name it, of every international partner of his, of the international system, because simply the world has proven to Netanyahu, to his government, for many decades, by the way, not just now, that words are not followed by deeds, that a lot of talk, no walk, nobody is doing the walking. So yes, he is going into Rafah.
The British government position, as you know, and we've heard it articulated again on the show this morning by the Deputy Foreign Secretary Andrew Mitchell, is that if a Rafah offensive is going to go ahead, it has to take place with a plan to ensure that the civilian population of Rafah are not affected, or are not affected in the way that other civilian populations have been throughout this conflict so far. Do you think that's possible? Is that a credible idea from the British government?
No. And none of the ideas and the declarations of the British government of late make any sense. There's a lot of inconsistencies, contradictions, and for the love of God, I as an ambassador no longer understand what is it. What is the UK policy vis-a-vis Palestine and Israel, the Middle East, and other places, by the way? What does that mean they need a plan for Rafah? They need a plan for genocide? They haven't followed the numbers. They are not following what has happened. And they do have a legal advice by their own lawyers at the Foreign Office.
Well, they say that...
And the advice is very clear, Louise. Israel has decimated every provision of international law.
Well, I asked him this precise question this morning about what the legal advice, up to Rafah, not including Rafah, because that could change things, but up to now. And the Deputy Foreign Secretary said that you could deduce from the fact that Britain continues to send, not arms, but arms components to Israel, deduce from that fact that they believe that their advice is that Israel is obeying international law.
That's double talk. And they have said this many times before. If Israel does that, and Israel does that, and then they actually go and change the goalpost. That's it. They're just not really interested or willing to do anything about it. So I've served as ambassador in Washington and now in London. And I wouldn't have imagined in my wildest dreams that actually the UK would be criticizing the US administration for posing an arms shipment to Israel.
So do you think that the US's position now...
I've lived long enough to witness this moment. Unbelievable.
So you think that the US's position now is harsher towards Israel, or is, in terms of legality and arms shipment and so on, than the UK position is, the official UK position? You think that position is harder than the UK ones?
No, the US position remains to be, by and large, backing Israel under all circumstances.
But I mean, on international law.
However, under international law, we've heard from President Biden himself that Israel have actually violated international law. But what we are hearing from British officials here is mincing words, dancing around words. We are not sure, we don't know. I mean, really? After the International Court of Justice, the highest court of the globe, says that it is plausible that Israel is committing genocide and now officially on trial for genocide. That's the judges of the world. After 100,000 Palestinians maimed and killed, murdered, mostly women and children, and you are looking at Luis in the eye and telling you in the morning, we still don't know. No, they know. The law is there and the assessment is there, but the political will is not there.
So you're saying that the British government position, which is, as I say, that if Rafah goes ahead, there need to be mitigations. You're saying that that's a nonsense position, that it makes no sense because it isn't possible to have mitigations.
No, I'm saying the UK position doesn't make sense all along. The UK...
But I just mean specifically on Rafah, just because that's happening. Because I asked Andrew Mitchell about it, and I asked him what the components could be of that plan. He said it wasn't up to the British government to devise those components. So I said, does that plan exist? Could it possibly exist? And I just want you to answer, do you think that there could be any plan, any form of offensive in Rafah that could do what the British government is saying and mitigate these potential risks to the civilian population there?
No, simply no. Rafah has 1.5 million displaced people. 650,000 of them are children, scattered all over in tents. So there is no possible scenario that you could do this in Rafah. And that's why I say the plan is not workable. What you need to do, and what you needed to do already 7 months ago, is to stop all this. And the moment you have seen the numbers and the images and the destruction, not only of lives, but of livelihoods, of schools and hospitals and mosques and churches and civil infrastructure, the moment you saw that, you should have immediately imposed an arms embargo. That is a UK obligation, Louise. It's not a demand. It is an obligation based on their domestic law and international law. So I think all this is just, playing with words, trying to dodge the challenges and the issues, and just throwing the can down the line. The price is genocide.
Do you think the British government, Mr. Ambassador, therefore, can I deduce from what you're saying that you think the British government doesn't care about the humanitarian situation in Rafah and Gaza?
Well, I think the British government is not consistent. They want a two-state solution, and when we presented them with an opportunity only this Friday to vote for membership for Palestine, they didn't. They talk about humanitarian catastrophe. They want to do something. They wanted to see 500 trucks coming in.
I asked the Deputy Foreign Secretary about the idea of Palestinian membership of the UN and about recognition of Palestine. He said that that's not appropriate now, but it could be in the future, in the middle future, in the medium term.
You see the double talk? You see? Okay, when is it? You've been saying two-state solution for 50 years. Netanyahu has completely undermined that vision. He has quadrupled the settlements over his time. The settler violence is in the rise. They are on rampage everywhere in the West Bank. Entire villages are being depopulated. And then you sit here and one of your ministers tells you this is not the right time. When is the right time? Did you negotiate with us when you recognized Israel?
If the Rafah offensive goes ahead, do you think that, and of course I did ask the Deputy Foreign Minister, Secretary to say whether or not British weapons or British components of weapons could be involved in that offensive. Do you think that Britain will have partly responsibility for that?
Yes. Capital letters. And by the way, after the ICJ ruling, I would recommend to the British officials to really be careful and assess the situation legally, because the ruling of the ICJ means that once this process is included, every third party that has provided weapons in a situation of genocide is complicit.
Well, what would you say, Mr. Ambassador, what would you say to the fact that, what do you think Israel should do then with regards to Rafah? Because as you know, what Israel is saying at the moment is that they had several soldiers killed as a result of a Hamas rocket attack from Rafah, and their point is that proves that Hamas are continuing to operate from there, and that means that they are a threat to the Israeli people.
Yeah, but Israel was bombing the north of Gaza. Israel was bombing the middle of Gaza last night, everywhere.
But there were missile attacks there were rocket attacks from Rafah, Hamas attacks from Rafah to Israel. So you don't deny that.
And this brings us to the key issue. Until when we are going to deal with the consequences, with the symptoms? When are we going to deal with the root cause, Louise? When countries like the UK will say enough is enough?
Well, Israel would say that the root cause is Hamas butchery and murder. It's not about how I think, Mr. Ambassador. It's not about what I think. Yeah. I am putting to you what Israel is saying, what many Israelis, indeed many listeners listening to this, will say, which is that after the terrible, terrible events of October the 7th, Hamas has responsibility for what happened next. It's not about what I think. It's about what the Israelis say. And I'm putting that to you.
Your listeners and the public opinion of this country know very well now. It started 76 years ago. Actually, it started 107 years ago in this very city, in this very country, the Balfour Declaration that promised our land without consulting us and turned us, the native population, into a non-Jewish minorities, and we were 95% of the population, owning 94% of the land.
We can always find a historical starting point, but you know as well as I do.
It's not about historical. It was continued up until the 6th of October. But
there was appalling butchery on October the 7th.
The root cause, Louise, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to tell you this. The root cause is military occupation
and Hamas subjugation. You would accept as well that Hamas is part of the root cause.
Well, Hamas is part of the conflict, but has not caused the conflict, has not created the conflict.
Well, it caused the conflict that has taken place since October the 7th, in a narrow sense at least.
What created the conflict is the denial of the Palestinian very basic, legitimate rights. The right to self-determination, the right to return to our properties, the right to be treated
And Israel
equally
does have a right to defend itself against Hamas. You would accept that?
And under the law. You know, this term, if self-defense is what we have seen in the last 7 months, this makes...
Sure, but I'm talking about the principle.
Rights, Luis, rights come with responsibilities. And Israel is an irresponsible actor for 76 years since its inception. It is a rogue state. It is using sheer force to primarily kill civilians, and this is not just the last 7 months. Israel was established on the bones of 2/3 of my people. 2/3 were ethnically cleansed. And it goes on and on until the 6th of October. And what has followed has just confirmed to everybody that this is a country willing to drag the West.
So you're saying that Hamas doesn't have responsibility for what happened on October the 7th because of history, because of the ways of history.
No, it's not. This is not history. This is living experience.
No,
we live it every day. On the 6th of October, Israel has already killed 360 in the West Bank, mostly children. They have stolen more land in the West Bank. Hamas is not in control there. They are provoking our people in Jerusalem. They are destroying our homes, demolishing our homes in the West Bank.
But you would accept that Hamas can have no part. But you would accept that Hamas can have no part in the peace settlement.
Don't minimize this.
I'm not minimizing
Hamas
it, Mr.
was
Ambassador.
created 20, 30 years ago. Our struggle, a people's struggle, is for 100 years, a century. So to minimize it means that we're going to miss the point again. The point is, this is a time when we really visit the root cause. And the root cause and the real goal is liberation. And you see your kids now and the students worldwide. You see the movement. This reminds me of the anti-apartheid movement. People get it. People get it. You in the media are not getting it.
All right. Dr. Zomlot, head of the Palestinian mission to the United Kingdom, Mr. Ambassador, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Really appreciate it.